Okay, for today's tech video, we're going to show you how to properly bleed your brake system. You're going to need a few tools in order to complete the task. First, we recommend a brake bleeder. You're going to need most likely a 5mm Allen wrench or Allen key, a 10mm wrench, possibly an 8mm wrench. This will depend upon the bleed screw that you have on your type of caliper, and also a recovery tank to catch your brake fluid. Two major components that we're going to be working on is your master cylinder, which is right here, and your rear caliper right here. Both are basically where everything's mounted at on a standard cart. Okay, now we're going to get started on the physical brake bleeding process. So we've already filled our brake bleeder up with .4 brake fluid. Check with your chassis manufacturer to see if they require .4, .5. That can make a difference. .5 is available at most auto parts stores. It's a silicone-based brake fluid. So the first thing we need to do is there's going to be, depending on your system, 1 or 2 fill plugs on your master cylinder. Typically it takes a 5mm Allen wrench, so we need to remove that fill plug and insert the brake bleeder. So that. Simply screw in the brake bleeder so you have a nice solid fit. Then there'll be a check valve on here, similar to any other type of valve. Turn it down, loosen your top cap to vent it. Now this is releasing your brake fluid into the master cylinder, and it's creating pressure back through the line. The pressure actually doesn't get created until we move back to the caliper, and depending on your chassis manufacturer, you'll either have 1 or 2 bleed screws. Typically they're usually on the top or they're on the bottom. You can check with your chassis manufacturer, but the process is exactly the same. So we have 2 of the right side and the left side, so we need to bleed both sides of the caliper. And in doing so, this type of system on the COMPKART takes a 10mm wrench. So we'll grab our 10mm wrench, and we also use this makeshift bottle, which is to catch any excess brake fluid that comes out. So the best way to do it is put your wrench on the bleed screw, hook your bottle onto here. Now you're going to be able to capture all of the fluid that comes out. Saves you not only a little bit of money, but it helps from making a mess and getting brake fluid on your paint, which will corrode it. So you basically simply just loosen your bleed screw, and once that's loosened, you're going to watch the fluid come up through this line, and once it's solid fluid and there's no more air bubbles, then we'll simply tighten the bleed screw. I've already done this side, so it's already bled, so we can go ahead and tighten that. You don't want to over tighten it and snap it off. And you pop this right off the bleed screw. Take our wrench off, and then with this system it's pretty clean. You don't have any brake fluid anywhere. We'll wipe up what little bit's there. We're going to move over here to the next side. We're going to do the exact same process. Put the bottle down here, crack it loose, and we're just going to wait for the fluid to find its way. But fluid is coming up, and on this side we're getting air bubbles that keep coming up. So it's just kind of a little bit of a waiting game. Wait till we have solid fluid coming all the way through the line, which lets us know that all the air's out. And we're pretty much there. So we're going to go ahead and tighten this up. Grab our rag, catch the extra, set our bottle there, wipe up what little bit of residue we kind of came on the caliper. It's always good to go back, just give it a double check. You don't actually really need to physically torque this down. Just make sure there's resistance. That steel fitting will have plenty of good bite on that aluminum caliper. So we'll set our wrench down. Now we're going to come back. We're going to shut the valve off on our brake bleeder. Let's close the top. Physically unscrew this from our master cylinder. Very, very simple setup. There's a couple different ways to do it, a couple different tricks, if you will. We like to typically just use the brake bleeder, feel that that's the most effective way. Do that to catch any extra fluid. Now that we've bled the brake system, we're just going to put our little fill plug back in with our 5mm Allen wrench. Give that a good tighten. Make sure on your fill plug, they should have a rubber O-ring or a fiber washer on there. Just double check, make sure that hasn't been damaged. Normally they don't. That allows you to get the proper seal. And then we're going to go here, get on the brake pedal. Now we have a super solid brake pedal. So now that you have your brake systems completely bled, everything's cleaned up, you're ready to go. If your chassis has what's called a self-adjusting system, as this one does, you're going to have a recovery tank on the master cylinder. Most newer chassis all have this. One other good thing to do is to check the level of fluid in this extra reservoir. So you just simply remove the cap, remove the washer and the rubber gasket inside there, and you just want to kind of check the level. Obviously you don't fill it all the way to the top because you have to account for the displacement of the gasket and the washer. Since we did the brake bleed, it's down a little bit, so you can just take your brake bleeder, crack the knob, fill a little bit of fluid up in there so you know you're in good shape. Put the gasket and the washer in there, put your cap on. Definitely want to make sure you get that nice and tight and snug. One other last thing to do is, because you are back here working with brake fluid around your braking system, it's always good just to get a paper towel. I always recommend a paper towel. Spray a contact cleaner, preferably a brake cleaner, on both sides of the rag, and go ahead and wipe your brake rotor down. That way, you know, you kind of alleviate any nuances of potential fluid that may have gotten somewhere and get on your brake rotor and cause an accident. And that's kind of another reason why we like to use the recovery bottle as well. It just makes it cleaner and reduces any potential safety issues. So pretty simple system, but that's how you bleed a traditional brake system.